Hello. So, you know, engines and vehicles are just as much chemistry as they are metallurgy. So I kind of figured I would do a brief rundown of the chemicals I use and why I use them. And keep in mind, with the exception of one or two items here for gas jobs, like old school TBI Chevys or something carbureted, there are a couple chemicals missing because I just don't work on them very much. This is mainly applying to diesel, but applies to all heavy duty, medium duty, and light duty applications. So I'll start with coolant. I mean, it's pretty self explanatory, you know. You can't stick G40 coolant in something that requires G12 or vice versa, and we get the expensive stuff. Just Volkswagen, you know, new Volkswagen, old Volkswagen slash Mercedes, GM shit, heavy duty diesels. Pretty straightforward there. And we got some, AC lubricant or fluid. Yeah, AC lubricant here and there are a couple different versions of that, which I very rarely use them. Uh, Brake fluid, pretty straightforward. We got DOT4 and DOT3. I keep big bottles of DOT4 because if something calls for DOT3 and it's a truck, I put DOT4 in it. The really only difference, actually the difference between DOT3 and DOT4 or any DOT numbers you know, in comparison is basically their boiling point. DOT4 has a higher boiling point than DOT3, so therefore it maintains stopping power at a higher temperature. You can't always just mix and match because once you get to certain DOT levels, the chemicals in the fluids change. So the seals, the fittings, all that. There's a bunch of shit you just need to look up. When an engineer tells you that it uses DOT3 or DOT4, use DOT3 or DOT4. I just put 4 in personally because it is the better fluid. But as far as how it's made up chemically, they're pretty similar, and DOT4 is just a better version of DOT3. Moving on, STP oil treatment. This is actually a highly debated additive that I use because Lucas oil treatment is almost as good. Um, in fact, I will say one thing: if you use both, if between this STP oil treatment and the Lucas oil treatment, if you use them both as directed, then Lucas will actually yield you better results. However, if you're able to kind of figure out your own formulas and mixtures, STP is actually a little more conservative on their, I guess, dosage per quart of oil. So you can actually double up on the STP oil treatment for non-turbo engines and get a better result than use as directed for Lucas. Um, and you could, I guess, in theory, do the same thing for Lucas, but STP has more zinc, it has more moly or whatever the hell it is. I can't even remember. There's so many treatments here, but it has more of it per ounce. So you can get better lubricity from your oil and treat your oil with more effectiveness using STP without changing the viscosity of your oil nearly as much as Lucas. Lucas makes a great product. I personally choose STP because it doesn't thicken my oil very much. I can use less of it to achieve the same result. And with that being said, that's all pretty much, that's just preference mostly. Just don't cram your engine full of it and you should pretty much be fine. In fact, I'd be curious to see what a rear end differential just crammed right full of this would do. I bet it would work very well. Moving on. Engine restore. I keep a shitload of this in stock because of the nature of what we do here. It says on it not to use on Ford Power Stroke systems. Not sure why. Where is it? Where is it? It's somewhere right there, yeah. Not for use in Ford Power Stroke diesels. Considering Ford got together with a bunch of other companies, including Bosch, Cat, and International, or Navistar, to make the Huey system that they use, I'm not sure why Ford doesn't. They don't like Ford. It's probably just one of those things that Ford did because they're Ford. Knowing Ford. Honestly, they're not the best truck in the world. They would be if their engineers could just get over the fact that they work for Ford. Seriously, like every Ford model ever, there's always just it's a great truck of 90% of the way through, and then like you get to that last 10% and figuring out the whole chassis, and it's just a nightmare. Like if it's not fuel lines, right, then it's the location of like a stupid like an anti ABS sensor or something. Just something. Just the way they locate things is just awful. They just have to be different. They just have to do it differently. Even if the way that they're kind of mocking works and has like no patents on it, Ford has to be different. So, anyways, back to this stuff. This stuff is great for cylinder rings. If you got a cylinder ring problem, which 99.9% of heavy haulers do, that's a great one to use. It's also great. It's also great for seals. It's got moly in it. It's got zinc in it. It's got normal. It's just a little bit different. I often use the two together. If I'm using a brand new engine that's not a Ford, in fact, I've crammed these down Ford Power Strokes throats before, and I've never had a problem. You just use a little less of it. Never had a problem. Never had a problem on Caterpillars. Never had a problem with anything with this. I've used it on everything, and it does what it's supposed to do. It really does. You can't use it to fix a broken part, but you can absolutely use it to like keep a part. You can use it to take a worn out part and just get a little more life out of it. You can use it to just push it that extra mile, but you can't fix a broken part. There is no fix it in a can. Moving on. Rust penetrant. I use liquid wrench primarily, used to, because it's simply the best. When you put it up in comparison to lubricity, heat resistance, corrosion resistance, it just outperforms PB Blaster. It outperforms WD-40. It outperforms anything you're going to buy on the shelf next to it. Now, with that being said, I just most recently switched over to Kimball Midwest here because unbelievably so, this stuff it suffers on the lubricity just a bit, but its penetrating qualities, which is what you really use it for, are unbelievable. So this stuff actually kind of tacks a little better onto like clean metal and offers additional lubrication. This stuff eats rust way faster. It's not even a competition. So this is my new go-to. Plus, it smells like Smarties. Seriously, it smells like a fistful of Smarties whenever you use it. And then down here to my fuel section. I use Hot Shots Secret here because of all of the anti-gel formulas, this is the one that works. Um, I don't remember the names of them. There's a bunch of them. They just don't work. The Diesel 911 just barely works. The red one is the only one that works. And even so, it doesn't work as well as Diesel Winter Anti-Gel. And this other one, I can't remember. It's like it looks like it comes in a big ass bottle. Gosh, I wish I could remember I used to buy it all the time. It comes everyone, all the Volkswagen community swears by it, but it quite literally doesn't. It actually lowers the lubricity of your fuel. But if you actually care about your engine and don't want to gel up this stuff, it adds lubricity. It keeps fuel thin. It is the best. It's just not even a question about it. If you actually put it to the test, all science like, this comes out on top in every single category by a million. Not even close. Not even a competition. If you have a diesel and you're not running this in the winter, you're wrong. So, moving on. Seafoam. I'm not sure I really need to explain seafoam. I think pretty much everybody in America knows what seafoam is. I'm not going to go into the chemistry of it because it's actually a pretty complicated and ingenious formula, but you could actually run a gasoline engine off of pure seafoam and you won't ruin your motor. Fun fact. Not sure about diesel. Don't know. Never tried it. Didn't care to. Too expensive. Anyways, what this does to diesel fuel in particular that I like is that it really cuts back on like any EGR diesel, it really helps keep it cleaner. It really does. And you notice that when you take apart an intake to clean it every 100,000, 50,000, 80, however often you do it, you start using this religiously, you notice the difference. This is great stuff. It actually stabilizes gasoline to the point where it burns better. It combusts more evenly, and it allows diesel to kind of funnily do the opposite. It actually kind of makes it more combustible. It still helps it control better, but it adds lubricity and control to diesel while it adds more even combustion to gasoline. It's a pretty ingenious formula. Um, some people put it in their oil and run it. I don't. I will put it in oil or run the vehicle hot, block the radiator so it gets just a wee bit hotter and emulsifies a lot of the carbon. 30 minutes tops, running at about 210 to 230, and then drain the oil. Put this in, run it for about 30 minutes at 200 to 220, 210, 230, anywhere, depending on the engine. It really depends. Your temperature range depends on the engine 100%. If it's an old Mercedes, I can run it up to 260 comfortably without damaging it. If it's a Volkswagen, I keep it at 210 on the dot. But either way, I have actually seen examples of this allowing chunks of carbon to fall out the drain plug when I was done. It was so bad, I did 2 oil changes in once because there was just so much crap in it, and the engine barely ran before, and it just cleaned it up and it ran great after. So, seafoam. Can't go wrong putting it in your fuel. You really can't. I mean, if you can afford to fill your fuel tank full of seafoam, go for it. I bet it would be great for it. Fuel system restorer. Moving on. Fuel system restorer. Um, I only have 5 of these because I ordered 6 of them 2 weeks ago and I've used one. This is specifically for gas jobs. There's actually 2 applications in which I use this. I use it for gasoline engines that I've just done an oil change on. This is kind of a little vitamin to help because I trust the company. I really do. Restore is a fantastic company that does not make a bad product. They don't. And if they make a bad product and it damages it, I can personally tell you from personal experience, they will reimburse you. It's a great company. Buy this product. It's awesome. So with that being said, I'll also use this when I make my own fuel. I used to make my own fuel out of waste oil and sludge, basically, like fry sludge. And using this, it changes the chemistry of it. It makes it a little more combustible, thins it out, does a bunch of shit. Keep in mind, if you make your own fuel out of waste oil, filter it. You have to filter it. There's no amount of product that's going to emulsify straight up like granular carbon in your oil. It's just not going to happen. Moving on, brake cleaner, self-explanatory. Moving on, starting fluid. We don't use starting fluid here. It's bad for our systems. Starting fluid's bad. Battery terminal cleaner. I use it more as a preservative, honestly. I spray this shit on the terminals because, like, have you ever seen a battery terminal in Maine? Yeah? Okay. Self-explanatory. And I threw it over here somewhere. Where is that? I should probably go get that because we do actually use starting fluid here. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Yeah. Starting fluid. It's fine if you have like a mechanical injection pump, except if you have a 6.2 or 6.5 Detroit. Actually, you should really never use this on Detroit diesel. It's not good for them. If it's not burning out the rings, you can actually just blow your starter right off the engine using this. Just don't use it, man. Don't do it. It's not good. Huey systems. A lot of times, a Huey system will have an oil pressure problem, which is what stops it from running. And people will jumpstart it with this. Oh my God, that's bad. That's so bad. I can't even explain to you in a 20-minute video, let alone a 15-minute video, how bad that is. Just don't do it. So moving on, I mean Bondo, like it's an empty shelf mostly, tape and bond. I just haven't done a lot of body work this month, and I burned through all our supplies, so it's self-explanatory. I mean, to be honest with you, I use Bondo because I'm not sure anyone else makes body filler. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe there is. I don't know. Bondo. I use it because it's great. And here's a mosh of paint. And honestly, I use it because I have it. I have no idea. This is actually Napa's paint here, I think. One of these. Yeah, these are Napa's color-coded paint, which honestly, Napa's the shit when it comes to paint. They can color match fucking anything. Funnels, obvious reasons. ATF, which I don't normally keep it here. We normally keep our oils and shit in 5-gallon jugs, but Valvoline, if you use an old Mercedes, this is a great ATF. If you use a newer automatic Volkswagen and you don't want to spend literally $70 a fucking gallon for ATF, you can use this. If you use this per gallon of this, I highly recommend you buy a quart of liquid moly synthetic ATF to add to it because it's as close to mimicking that Volkswagen ATF as you can get, and there is a difference. The difference is even if you do that, you're not quite there. But if you use just this stuff on like a Volkswagen, let's say a DSG transmission, You got to service it 25,000 miles instead of every 40. Or if you go 60, then it's 45, 30. Take about a third, a little over a heavy third, a little over a third of your interval time, and you got to shave it right off because this stuff just it doesn't last as long, and it breaks down, and your clutches go through more wear and tear, and the DSG transmission or the O2M from Volkswagen just not great transmissions. So here we have extra oil treatment because in the winter time I go through a lot of it. This, which is just this stuff. I especially use this in the winter time. I typically hold off in the summer, honestly, because this is mostly for cold startups, and it works. It does work. This stuff mostly works in the summertime, wintertime. And there's exceptions to every rule, but that's pretty much in Greece, of course. Lucas. Um, you know, there really is no such thing as a light duty grease. It's just basically cheaper, thinner grease, in my opinion. In lieu of light duty grease, I use red and tacky. It's great grease. And Valvoline's heavy duty application is it's great. It's just like your trailer hitches. I use red and tacky on damn near everything. The only time I ever use specifically like heavy duty grease is if it's something bigger than a 500 cubic inch diesel engine that comes in here, something that hauls more than 40,000 pounds. Something that I'm not going to see again for a while, and I want a great grease. So that's kind of yeah, that's it. There's a couple others that I haven't really included, but that's my main chemical shelf. And apart from duct tape, that's just about everything a guy needs right there to keep things just a purring. So I hope at least one part of this was informative. Yeah, that's it. Bye.